That's live. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the MMA UK live show. My name's Lewis Smith, and for everyone watching either with us live tonight or back on record a couple of days later, we appreciate all your time. And if you do like this, please smash the like button and give us a few comments as well. We really do appreciate it. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the coming Cage Warriors cards, obviously the December cards, Cage Warriors 131 and Cage Warriors 132, the double header. I'm joined to discuss those tonight with my good friends Katie Hunter and the voice of UK MMA, Cage Warriors commentator Brad Wharton. Guys, Brad, how's it going, buddy? It's been a while since we last spoke.
Yeah, it's been a while, mate, hasn't it? Yeah, everything's going good. UK MMA is back, which is great. Been to loads of shows this year. Great to see everyone back fighting. Great to see everyone back working. And yeah, looking forward to next weekend.
Yeah, definitely. And Katie Hunter, been a busy few months for you. A new job. How's things at home, and how's things with the fighting going?
All good. I've barely been training myself. Got to a few shows, but yeah, I'm really excited for this double header. I think actually the last events that I went to, apart from the local scene, was the last Cage Warriors. So yeah, excited to chat about these cards.
Yeah, definitely. And before we get into it, I've got to give a big shout out to our sponsors, Conatuum. Conatuum are a coffee brand. They specialize in coffees. They specialize in rubs and seasoning, and their ethos is all about hard work and dedication. So a big thank you to them tonight for giving us a sponsorship and supporting all the MMA athletes up in Scotland as well. It's a Scottish brand, so yeah, big shout out to those guys, and thanks for sponsoring this video. But let's get into it now. I don't want to keep people waiting any longer. I know we've got a lot of good fights to watch and talk about this next couple of weeks. So 10th and 11th. First of all, Brad, I do want to ask you, because you know we're getting into the double headers now. We've obviously had 18 months or so of these trilogy cards with Cage Warriors. Looking back for you over the last 18 months, we've been through lockdown after lockdown. We've been through a pandemic. What's your sort of takeaway from those cards, and what will your memories be of that time at Cage Warriors?
Man, it was such a weird time. Like, we've just never had to deal with anything like this before. In terms of MMA and just real life as well. Like, I'm sure everyone by now is at the point where they're just kind of, sick of not being able to do what they want to do. And, especially over the past 18 months when we've had periods where, we've not even been able to go out and socialize and get out of our houses. It was a real nice thing to be able to do, to go and be with people and work with people, that you hadn't seen for a long time while these shows were going on. And of course, for the athletes, crucially as well, they needed to fight. And, unfortunately, there was nowhere else they could do it. I know there was a couple of shows that kind of snuck a couple of cheeky ones in, but really these trilogy shows have been kind of it for European MMA in terms of what the UK has been able to do. So some great memories. I think one thing that you can't deny from those shows is that everybody brought it. Everyone was so keen because they just didn't know when they get to fight again. And obviously, the UFC weren't particularly hiring much, so a lot of guys were looking to make a big impression. And I think it kind of brought the best out of everyone. It's certainly brought the best out of everyone behind the camera and outside the cage as well. It was really, a unique set of challenges for us, in terms of broadcast, and also for the Cage Warriors team, logistically getting everyone into the country, getting everyone quarantined, transported to hotels, tested, especially during the early days, people failing COVID tests and having to be quarantined in hotels and stuff. It was just nuts. The Cage Warriors team that you don't know, the guys behind the scenes, don't get enough props and don't get enough plaudits. I could probably sit here all day reeling off names, but if people knew what those guys had been through to get these shows on, they'd be raising glasses, and quite rightly so.
Yeah, definitely. And Katie, we're moving forward in time now. We've got a double header coming up next week. Do you think it is the case for us now that we'll sort of gradually go to double headers and then back to the single cards, or do you think there is still space in MMA UK for triple headers and trilogy cards?
I've definitely got space for it. I'm sure it's a nightmare to put on, and I'm sure it's like a logistical nightmare to try and get everything together. I guess it will depend whether I mean, heaven forbid we were to go back into another lockdown. I daren't even say it. I mean, we might have to. Cage Warriors was the only thing that got me through when we were in that situation. So I would guess that it will depend on what the landscape looks like next year. But I certainly love having these double headers. But it will be really nice if they can start traveling around again. And I would certainly love to see some shows in Ireland. I would love to get over to Ireland, and there's a lot of people on the roster that aren't from London, so it'd be good for them to have another crack wherever their cards should be.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough one. Like there's benefits to doing like 3 shows in a row. You've rented all the equipment; it's all there. You're doing also 3 sets of weigh-ins, 3 sets of COVID tests and everything. There's a lot that can go wrong. So there's kind of there's good things and bad things about it. But I think Graham mentioned on Twitter a couple of weeks ago that next year is going to be maybe the busiest year Cage Warriors have ever had in terms of the number of shows and the different locations. So I would certainly expect that. I don't know for certain. I haven't got any dates for next year, but I would certainly expect it to be going back to averaging out 1 or 2 a month. And obviously the ones in America as well. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was the kind of thing we did as like a one-off every now and again. We've done like the Super Saturdays and Night of Champions, that kind of thing. I wouldn't be surprised if it maybe becomes like something they do in December to get as many guys out in December, because it's never a show in January, and maybe mid to late February they start again. So maybe it'd be like a cool new Cage Warriors tradition to do like double trouble December every year.
Yeah, I hope they do that, because even though I love getting out and getting shows in different places, for me, there's nothing better than like finishing work on a Thursday, switch on the TV, and you've got a Cage Warriors card to watch all night on Thursday. I thought that was one thing I actually really enjoyed. I didn't think I would, because like I said, I've always loved going out and going to the different shows, but that was one benefit, that you finish work on a Thursday and you've just got a night of Cage Warriors in front of you, and 3 nights actually. So yeah, that was one thing I like, and I definitely think there's a little bit of space for that. So
I love it starting early on the Saturday as well, and then you normally get like a UFC straight after. Like that's really tasty.
I think the UFC on next Saturday's late, so I think we're back to a normal time now on Saturday. I think it's going to be like a 9 o'clock main card again. But yeah, no, they were brilliant, especially because we finished. I think we finished one of them at like 8:30 or something, and we were back in the hotel bar by about 9:15, which is always good. There's nothing worse than getting back to the hotel at 1 a.m. and then trying to find food and get a few cold ones down you. So yeah, I'm always in favour of the early starts.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I've digressed you both a little bit there, so I'll get back onto the cards at hand. Obviously, we've got York Hall, London, the iconic venue as people call it. That's going to be host to Cage Warriors 131 on the 10th of December, and the headline of that card is a title fight, a middleweight title fight to be precise, between current champion Matthew Bonner and Jati Melan. Brad, I'll come to you with this one first. Obviously, we saw Matthew get an absolutely stunning win last time, took the belt from Matthias Frederick, absolutely ferocious champion. What can we expect from his first title defense?
I mean, if you look at the 18 months that Matt's had, you're going to expect a better performance, because he's just got better and better over that time. I've got something coming out on the Cage Warriors website this week about some of the storylines that ran through the trilogy area, and Matt's was the first one that came to mind. They put a video out last week, I think, of he had the 6-6-1 record to start the trilogy era, and then he's finished 10-6 and a world champion. He just seems like he's getting better and better. He's found his niche, next generation. He's rounded out his game much more, and he's kind of he's stepped up into that kind of like that champion's role and champion's mindset. He's out there on social media making jokes and generating interest and stuff. He's really kind of stepping into that role. And I think if you'd have said to him 18 months ago, where do you see your career going, he probably wouldn't have said world champion and potentially looking at winning 2 titles in the next 12 months and maybe even getting a shot in the UFC. So it's been amazing to see. I've followed Matt's career since he was an amateur. Called many of his amateur fights back in the day on the regional circuit. So it's just been so cool to see him to get that belt and to dethrone the Titus as well, who was looking like the unbeatable champ, even better. But man, Milan is a interesting one because this guy has not fought a lot, and when he was fighting, he looked very, very good. And you just don't know what you're going to get. You know, you would assume that he's not got the same kind of wear and tear that a guy who's been fighting pro for 7 years has got, because he's only had 7 pro fights, I think. You know, you don't know what he's done in terms of upgrading the skill set over that time that he's not been competing. But then you don't know if he's going to be as sharp as a guy that has had as many fights as Matt. So really intriguing fight for me. You know, I don't think it's going to be as cut and dry as people might expect with Bonner being the known guy.
Yeah, and Katie, as we said, we've got like exactly as Brad said, we've got a very interesting match. But obviously, Bonner, you know, really just getting stronger and stronger against a guy with not a huge amount of experience. What's your take on this matchup?
Well, I have to say that Bonner's really surprised me in his last 2 outings. I was really surprised at the performance against James Webb, who I know really well. And then Matthias, I just thought he'd be too strong for him. And to see the way that he performed in that fight just makes it so hard for me to pick against him. I honestly have been so impressed by him. And like you say, sometimes people's career just takes a turn and he is on a tear. So yeah, I think it's really hard to look past him in this fight. I'm gonna pick him.
Yeah, I won't bother Brad with predictions because I know he'll get a lot of stick from the fighters if he goes against them. But I'll come to you.
I'll tell you later.
Yeah, I'll come to you with the predictions. Okay, you're going for Matthew on that one, you?
Yeah, who are you going with, Lewis?
Do you know what? I'm gonna have to go with Matthew just because, as we said, we've not seen too much of Milan, and Matthew has just got stronger and stronger and stronger. So I'm gonna go with him. I don't know. I can't make a prediction of how it's gonna happen, but I'm just gonna go with Matt. And Miles' paint today is going Bonner TKO late in the second round. So yeah, thanks for that shout out, Miles. That's not a bad prediction actually. So that takes then to the co-main event of Cage Warriors 131, lightweight vacant title bout, and that's going to be between George Hardwick and Mehdi Ben Lakhdar. A very, very exciting fight that one. Obviously, we've seen Mehdi Ben Lakhdar in Cage Warriors for a while now. Always an exciting fight. I mean, obviously I'm pretty sure he fought Joe McColgan, who was the previous champion, and they got a draw, like a crazy back and forth war. And obviously, George has recently come into the promotion over the course of the last 18 months and had some exciting wins as well. So a really exciting match. I'm not 100% sure, Katie, have they given any specific reason as to why Joe has vacated the belt?
So, Brad, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't it just due to personal reasons? He's too busy in his personal life and he doesn't want to hold up the division, was what I've heard.
Yeah, that's the long and short of it. You know, he's got a lot going on, you know, home-wise. I think he just bought a house last year and doing a lot of work on that. And obviously, you know, he's the team captain there as well. So he's got responsibility to be getting the other guys ready for their fights. And, you know, yeah, exactly. You know, look, it's a tough spot to be in, the Cage Warriors lightweight champ, because there's no easy fights in that division whatsoever. You know, there's no gimmies. You can't take a step back once you've got that belt around your shoulder. And Joe wants to make a run of this. He believes he can be in the UFC. So to do it half-assed and when you're not in the gym full time would be crazy. You know, I spoke to Joe recently and he said he wanted to relinquish the belt before the last trilogy because he was already kind of in that position. And Cage Warriors had kind of said, well, look, let's just see what happens, see if things change. But obviously things haven't changed. So, you know, he's been, you know, really fair, in my opinion, in saying he doesn't want to hold the division up. He doesn't want there to be an interim champion. But you best believe he's getting that first crack when he comes back. So whether it's Mehdi, whether it's Hardwick, I mean, both of those are great fights. You know, you look back at that fight with Mehdi, that was actually a split draw. So one judge for one corner, one judge for the other, and one called it a draw. You don't get closer than that. Yeah. And for me, probably the best Cage Warriors fight I've ever called in terms of just what was going on. It was crazy to see those guys do it over 5 rounds. Yeah, absolutely. To see Joe come back and fight Hardwick again, absolutely incredible fight. So best wishes to Joe. Hope he gets back as soon as possible. If you like watching fights, you like watching him fight. In the meantime, like this is just another crazy fight. Like you kind of expected Mehdi to be there anyway because he was kind of solidified as the #1 contender. I know he was going to fight Paul Redmond earlier this year because that would have been like a big name fight for him. But obviously, Paul's retired with injuries and stuff now as well. So it's only right that Mehdi gets that shot. And I think Hardwick's proved himself outside the Cage Warriors and with his performances in Cage Warriors, stopping the former featherweight champ with a body shot, boom. That's the kind of statement you want to make. So really intrigued to see how these guys figure each other out. Different kind of striking styles. It should be a wild one.
Yeah. How are you feeling about this one, Katie?
It's going to be violent. I can't wait for this one. I absolutely cannot wait. Hardwick is just, he doesn't care. He doesn't care how much damage he has to take to inflict it. And Mehdi is always in crazy, crazy fights. Whenever I see his name on a fight card, I'm instantly more excited about the whole show. And that fight with Joe McColgan is, apart from Josh Reed and Nathaniel Woods, that's like my favourite Cage Warriors fight ever. It was phenomenal. And I really thought that Joe and him would be fighting for the belt. Maybe that will still happen. Or like you say, maybe it'll be Hardwick. But this could very, very well be the fight of the entire doubleheader. And I'm absolutely buzzing for this one.
Yeah, I think it could well be as well. And it kind of, you and Brad both say now, I think it kind of gives me an idea for another future podcast, which will have to be, top 10 ever Cage Warriors fights. That's going to be the next one we're going to have to do, I think, after this. We've definitely got some good ones to pick from, haven't we?
Yeah,
why not?
So that's what we'll have to do for the future. But Katie, are you making a prediction for this one? Mehdi Ben Lakhdar against George Hardwick?
I think I'm going to have to go Mehdi. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm wrong, but I think I've got to go Mehdi with this one.
Yeah, I'm 50-50, so I'm just going to go the opposite and go for George Hardwick on this one. I think, to be honest, I really can't pick. I think, on the night it's going to be who performs the best, and I really couldn't put much between these two guys. So I'm gonna be contrary to Katie and go for George Hardwick on this one. And that takes us down to the third fight of the night. Third one down, which is Wales' own Evil Oban Elliott, or Oban Angel Eyes Elliott now, I think, isn't it? And he's going to be fighting Madars Fleminass. Katie, I'll come to you first on this one. What do you think? Oban obviously came back with a bang last time after a little bit of time out. How do you see him lining up against Madars?
That was my favourite fight of the last trilogy. I thought he looked incredible. The way that he handled himself after his loss, I was more certain than ever that he was going to go on to become a champion. And just the way he didn't use how ill he'd been as an excuse. And I just think he handles himself like a champion. He went out there and performed like a champion. And probably shouldn't advertise other podcasts, but Sean Sheehan's got a great interview with him out at the moment, where he predicts he's the next Cage Warriors star, and it's really hard to think who will be a bigger star than him in Cage Warriors at the moment. And Madas is a good step up for him, and he was obviously in the welterweight tournament, so it's a really good test. But I'm with Oban all the way on this, and I'm looking forward to another big performance from the gangster.
Yeah, but back up to welterweight, Brad. Do you think he's fitting in better there than he did at lightweight?
Yeah, if you listen to in particular that interview with Sean that Katie mentioned, he talks about the fact that part of the reason perhaps behind these health problems was what he was doing to his body to get down to 150. And you would just hope that as the years go on, more and more guys, and it's definitely changed a lot in the last 10 years, more and more guys start fighting a bit closer to their natural weight, because no matter how well you do it, and no matter how many times you do it and how good you get at doing it, it is not good for your body in the long run to dehydrate it. It just isn't. People say, oh, I can do it safely. You can't. There's no such thing as doing it safely. This is an inherently unsafe sport as it is. You receive a brain injury every time you get punched in the head. But what we do is we introduce rules and regulations and things to mitigate that risk. And we obviously do that not enough with weight cutting, in my opinion. So I think Oban's done the right thing for his health and his longevity to make that decision to move up. And look, he didn't look small against George in that last fight. And George is a big dude. You know, he's like 6'3", 6'4", right? Yeah. And Oban didn't look undersized at all. So for me, there's no reason for him to be fighting anywhere else but welterweight. He looked great. You know, the guy's $1 million on the microphone. If he can keep winning fights, the sky's the limit. But look, this is a tough test for him. It's his most experienced opponent to date. Obviously, Figleck has, you know, kind of moved on from their fight and made a bigger name for himself. But in terms of where they actually are, the points in their career where they're fighting, this is certainly Oban's biggest test to date. And Matthias believes that he's still in the running at welterweight, so he can't afford to lose this fight. He doesn't want to get in that gatekeeper position, and if he can take out Oban, that's huge for him.
Yeah, a very big fight for both guys, and another very exciting one as well. So we look forward to that. We've got Miles Painter coming in with another prediction. Thank you, Miles. He is saying Elliot TKO round 1. Bold prediction there, Miles. Thank you as always for checking them in, buddy.
We've got some other comments if you want to look at a couple before we move on. Jordan Hamburg says Hardwick will be victorious. And then we've got just a lot of support coming through, people saying hi. I don't know who that one is. Will David W be on the card? David, you might have to give us his last name, Ryan. Sorry.
Yeah, but I'm struggling there.
Ricky Shock says, ask Brad about his most favourite train ride home after a Cage Warriors event.
Brad would very much like to keep his job with Cage Warriors, so Brad won't be talking about that train ride home.
There we go. Great question, Ricky Shock.
My man, Ricky.
Putting Brad on the spot, we love it.
This is unbelievable.
Ricky was part of that train ride, so you know, let's not start throwing stones in glass houses.
Oh, brilliant. There we go.
And Daniel Edwards says Nate looks so wholesome and innocent in his photo with me.
I was just thinking that.
Okay, that's us up to date, I think.
Oh, brilliant. Where did you get that photo, Katie?
New York, outside MSG before he fought for the BMF belt.
Oh, okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Fair play, great picture. And he does look very, he looks very pure on that picture, doesn't he?
Looks
like
he's
very pleased to meet the MMA UK's own Katie Hunter, I would say.
I heard that it was Nate that asked for the photo.
Well, he's only human.
There we go. So back to the card then. We've got next one down. We've got Yassine Beljad versus Danilo Bellardo in a lightweight belt. I hope I pronounced that name right. Brad, any thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, both these guys are really entertaining to watch. You know, crazy legs. Yassine Beljad got that traditional striking background. Loves the taekwondo. Had a really nip and tuck fight with Tom Mearns, I believe, in his last Cage Warriors contest. Yeah, just one of those guys who's just always entertaining. Yeah, I think he ran up against Jack Grant in one of his early Cage Warriors fights and got guillotined really quickly, so we didn't see a whole lot of him in that contest. But you know, what he's done before and what he's done since, you know, this should be a real exciting, like scrappy back and forth contest on the feet between these two guys. Looking forward to seeing what Bellardo can do. Haven't seen a massive amount of him, so he's on my kind of tape study list for the next few days. But I am told by my guys in Italy that you know, again, very entertaining guy to watch. So this could be one of those you know, breakout moments where, you know, two guys who are perhaps not as well known as others on the card. You know, they're going to try and be trying to stake a claim in the division. So it's going to be interesting to see how they get on.
Yeah, brilliant. Below that, then we've got Nick Bagley, and he's going to be taking on Scott Pedersen. Again, I'm not too familiar. I don't think I've seen a lot of Bagley, but I know Pedersen, obviously, he trains a little bit down in Show MMA now, and he trained over in Chrissy's Academy previously. Probably one of the most decorated amateurs in the UK scene over the last couple of years. You know, if you look at his performances on the Cage Warriors Academy across the UK, obviously going out to the Amateur World Championships as well. And obviously a big win for him last time out with a rear naked choke as well. So Scott is one of those guys. I know he was meant to fight on the last trilogy card and he had to pull out for whatever reason, but he's got such potential. So I'm, as a Welsh guy, a Welsh fan, I'm really looking forward to watching Scott fight. And I think that whatever fight he's going to be in is going to be great. As I said, I don't know a huge amount about Bagley, but I mean, I'm sure if he gets the win there, then a lot of people in Wales are definitely going to know a lot about him. So
Nick Bagley is brilliant, Lewis. He's someone I've watched on the local scene here for a long time. He's fought on Rise of Champions. He's fought on Cage Warriors Academy Southeast. I think he's fought on Fight Star. I would say he's the kind of English Southeast version of everything you've said about Scott. And this is what I love when people. This is Nick making his Cage Warriors debut, but like it's such an amazing fight that we've got, and you will know who Nick is after this fight. He's one of Brad Pickett's fighters from GB Top Team. Yuki Gandambay is making his Cage Warriors debut on this card as well. So somebody, I think Kev McConnell said he's looking forward to the GB Top Team takeover on this Double Trouble card. Nick is one to look out for as well. So I would say this fight is going to be awesome. So if anybody doesn't know who either of these guys are, make sure you watch it.
Yeah, and that just reeks to me of Ian Dean's matchmaking as well. I know you've said that. So I mean, he's known as one of the best in the game, and obviously matching two prospects in that way, from two quite popular regions within the Cage Warriors brand as well. I think that's going to be a bit of a sleeper as well, to be honest with you. So look forward to that one. We then got Gene Enzoy versus Tom Mearns. Brad, any thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, John Enzoy is one of my favorite guys from Cage Warriors over the past 10 years. He had such a great run, kind of around 2011, 2012. Was in one of the all-time great Cage Warriors fights from that era against Liam James. And he was the guy back then. He was, put it this way, if Conor McGregor had not been signed to the UFC at the end of 2012, he'd have been fighting John Enzoy that year. That's how highly regarded John was. He was, in touching distance of a title shot. Obviously, he took a long time off. There were some injuries and some family stuff going on with him that kept him out the cage for a very long time. And, he came back and had that just awful knockout against Corin Eaton, one of the heaviest I've ever seen. Things didn't go his way last time, but he's just getting back into the flow of things. And if there's one thing we know about Jean is that he loves a scrap, and who better to have a scrap with than Tom Mearns, right? That guy will just stand and trade with anyone. Look, it's no secret things haven't gone Tom's way on Cage Warriors over the past few years. He's been in some absolute ding-dongs. He's been some really close fights, but the wins just haven't gone his way. He's gone to the Academy show, had a really good win there recently, and now he's coming back, and you best believe that he's got that fire in his belly now. And I think crucially as well, he's back down at 145 for this one. I know speaking to his coach, Danny Batten, Danny's been saying to Tom for years now, you need to be at 145. You are a 145er. But again, he's had work commitments that's meant that he's not been able to, keep in that kind of 145 condition because he's just not had the time to do that kind of training, that kind of dieting, etc. Look, it's real life. It gets in the way sometimes. But he's obviously got something inside him now where he's saying, look, I'm going to make this run. And if you can take out John Enzoy, get a couple more fights under his belt early next year, who's to say? He's always going to have a place on any fight card because he's so entertaining. And I think that's why these two guys are matched up so well.
You actually got me pretty hyped up for that fight now, Brad. I gotta say, mate, you fired me up for that one. And do you know what? The next fight underneath that is another one that really fires me up. It's one of those ones I read it earlier and kind of glazed over it, but I was just looking at it then, and it kind of hit me. Liam Gittins versus Kingsley Crawford. I was at the last trilogy, and I saw Liam in the absolute war. He obviously lost, and it was a very difficult loss, I would imagine, for him getting stopped so late on. But absolutely insane war. Even the fight before when he won, he swinging for the bleachers against Kingsley Crawford, who's off the back of a good win. I think he had a Bravo choke last time, Kingsley, in his win in it was against Adam against, I can't think of the guy's name, Wilson.
Adam Wilson, yeah.
Adam Wilson. He's another guy who's a prospect against a prospect. What do you think this one, Katie? Gittins versus Crawford.
Another GB top team guy in Kingsley. So, another one that Brad Pickett will be cornering, I'm sure. It's a great fight, isn't it? It's an absolutely great fight. I always love watching Liam fight. From the beginning of his pro career, he's just been amazing to watch. And
so entertaining,
sometimes like a little bit erratic almost, but I just love that style. He's incredible to watch. Kingsley's just getting better with every fight and just seems to improve a ton between each fight as well. So I've obviously got to go with Kingsley, but it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, what do you think of that one, Brad?
Yeah, I mean, Katie's pretty much nailed it, to be honest. Both guys, great to watch. Guys with a fair bit of Cage Warriors experience, but they're both still young guys as well. So, you better believe you've got time to improve still. You never know what improvements you're going to see from guys like this. They're both at very good gyms. They've both got very good teams around them. They've both been around success, so they know what it takes. Both guys, could have probably taken an easier fight in this one, but it's great to see them, agreeing to be matched up with each other. This is the kind of fight that I like to call the E&D and special, because you didn't know you wanted it. If you'd have been asked to predict it, you wouldn't have. But now, as soon as you hear it, you're like, yeah, that's good. That's good. I like that. So yeah, looking forward to it. This is one of those ones like when I got like the we've got like an internal spreadsheet with all the fights on and stuff, so we can plan ahead kind of thing. And this is one of those fights where I was like, you know what, this is like the kind of fight that makes me want to maybe call in sick and just watch. Like,
yeah, I don't blame you. So that is the last fight on the main card of Cage Warriors 131. On the undercard, we've got a couple of others: Adam Cullen versus Mikhail Bayram, Ben Reese versus PK Zada, Samir Kadi versus Michael Chamo. I hope I've pronounced that right. Apologies, guys, if I haven't. And I know, Katie, you want to talk a little bit of this one: Luke Riley versus Yuki and Gandambay. How do you feel about that one? I know you wanted to speak about this one, didn't you?
Well, Yuki's just another person who I think could go on to be a star. He's great on the mic as well. I love his style. He's just so so violent. Every fight I've seen of his, he's just so active. And I would just really encourage people, don't just watch the main card. You've got to watch this all the way through from bottom to top. It's going to be such a great night of fights. And PK as well, making his Cage Warriors debut. He's 3-0. His last fight was on Brave. Just like, I love his style as well. There's not one fight that you can go to the loo. So just make sure that you can make it to that awkward 45-minute break between the prelims and the main card. Like, do your stuff then. But make sure you see all of these.
We've got 11 fights, I think, on the Friday, so there shouldn't be that much of a break, really.
I'll hold you to that, Brad.
Yeah, well, look, I drink a lot of water when I commentate to keep my my voice all right. So trust me, I feel the pain of not being able to nip off to the loo between that 45-minute break is a godsend for people like me.
For you only.
I'm telling you, I've had some hairy moments with empty water bottles underneath that stage in the O2 arena. It's first world problems, eh?
Yeah, commentator problems. So yeah, that is Cage Warriors 131. Obviously the following night then, again, York Hall, Cage Warriors 132, and this one is headlined by current bantamweight champion Dominic Wooden versus Carlos Obro. That's another great fight. I mean, Dominic Wooden, that last fight he had with Nathan Fletcher, obviously where he took the belt, I think probably a lot of people thought Nathan Fletcher was going to win that fight. Nathan started off very, very well, but Dominic kept going and obviously came away with a knockout. Brad, first of all, can you just talk to us a little bit about that last victory and what you expect to see from this matchup?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure how it came across watching it live on TV, but from being in the arena, if I didn't know I was in London, I would have assumed I was in Liverpool, because that crowd was so heavily in favour of Nathan Fletcher. And I was kind of shocked by that, so just purely because Dom's, a local guy. Obviously, I knew there was loads of guys up supporting the next gen guys, but, it kind of, it gave everyone kind of pause for thought. And you think, how's this going to kind of affect the fight? And I think early on, you could see that Nathan was really thriving off that support. And I think it was one of those fights where, Nathan didn't really do anything wrong, right? He came out and fought the perfect game plan. If you're fighting a guy like Dom, you need to find a way to get very close to him very quickly without getting kneed or kicked or punched in the face. You need to stick to him like glue, and you need to get him on his back. So I don't think, really, you couldn't really have asked for anything more from Nathan in terms of what his game plan was and sticking to it. But you look at a guy like Dom Wooding, he's been fighting for a long time. He's still a young guy, but, he's fighting from a young age at amateur, and he fought some high-level amateur fights. And, he's in there with guys like Andy Young really early in his career. That's a fight that may have come a bit too soon for him, but he's got that experience. There's nothing that Nathan's going to do that he's not seen before, maybe. And it gave him that kind of confidence and patience to just have it in the back of his mind. Nathan can't do this forever. He can't do this forever. It's going to get more difficult as the fight goes on. And then as soon as Nathan gave him an inch, he took a mile and, used that killer instinct and that crazy knockout power that he's got.
Yeah,
so, I certainly don't think that loss counts against Nathan Fletcher at all. I know Nathan's going to be back next year. New and improved. I really, really rate that kid. I think he's going to go very, very far. But, Dom was the better fighter on the night, and that's how it is. A great champion. Can't wait to see him against Carlos, who's a guy, who's fought all over the world. He's coming in very late notice. As far from what I understand from at least what's been said on social media, a couple of guys would turn this fight down against Dom Wooding. And, why wouldn't you, right? It's, everyone's got their hand up until they see a performance like that. And all of a sudden, everyone's maybe taking a step back a little bit, reassessing the situation. So, fair play to Abreu for coming in on a couple of weeks' notice, taking this fight. And look, these are the ones where everything can kind of go against the run of play, right? We don't really know what to expect from him, so it should be quite interesting. Interesting to see if Dom can get another big highlight reel KO, and what an upset it would be if Abreu comes and takes the title on his debut.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I know you spoke to Dom not long after his great win there against Nathan Fletcher. As a champion, how do you sort of see him, and how do you see him approaching this first title defense against Abreu?
Well, like Brad said, he's got a lot of experience for his age, and we know from his last fight that he can stick to a game plan however long it takes. He said that he knew that would be Nathan's game plan. He wasn't panicked. He wasn't stressed. Even when it felt like the rounds were kind of racking up against him, he didn't switch out of that belief. He knew he only had to catch him once, and he knew it was going to come. And I said, even if it went into the 5th round, were you still sure that moment was going to come? And he said, yeah, I was still sure. I could hear my corner. I was doing everything right. So I just think he's got a maturity about him now that comes from all that experience and being in all those different situations over the years. And he's been unlucky with some decisions that were very, very close, not going his way. And I think he really feels like it's his time. And again, training with Brad at GB Top Team, all the talent that they've got there at that weight class. And they've got so many smaller guys there at such a high level. For me, I don't know much about Abreu, so it's difficult for me to say, but I'd kind of echo what Brad said in that for me, I'm assuming that it's going to be another strong highlight reel performance from Dom. But yeah, wouldn't it just shock your call if it didn't go that way? I think this is going to be a really strong performance for Dom. And then how many defenses do we need to see for him before he's UFC ready? Like, could that be the one that sends him there?
He's got quite a strong personality as well, Dom, isn't he? Quite a good talker and an interesting character, which I think definitely would play in his favor when it comes to that kind of signing and moving on. Kiki, one thing I did want to ask you, we've talked about all these Brad Pickett products coming through on the Cage Warriors show. Did you ever find out, for anyone who watched the last trilogy, Brad Pickett was there with his gigantic backpack walking around. We were all talking about it. Did you ever find out what
I think I did ask him, actually. I think I did. Hang on. Well, you talk about the next fight. I'll try and find it in my messages.
We should make predictions about what it was. I'm going to say it was another flyweight, just in case there was a leg drop out.
Yeah, definitely. But that was a selling point of the last Cage Warriors card. Brad Pickett. What was in Brad's bag?
It was like Abu Azaitar's suitcase, wasn't it? The mystery suitcase that got onto Fight Island. This could be the Cage Warriors version of that.
Yeah, what's in Brad's bag? I want to know what's in it, and I think maybe we get a little competition going there, Katie, off the back of that. What's in Brad's bag? Winner gets a free trade.
Winner can have one of these.
Oh, what's that?
Rainbow sherbet sour.
Fair play, Brad.
A real man's drink.
Yeah. There we go. So yeah, Kate, you find out that we'll get that competition going.
Yep.
Brad, if you can find out anything at the double header, what's in Brad's bag will be on the next podcast.
Yeah, I'll get my sources to work on that straight away.
Yeah, brilliant. And that takes us on to the next fight then. Another title bout in the flyweight division. And this is a rematch. Sam Chrissy versus Luke Shanks. Obviously, we saw those two guys fight for the title last time. It was a vacant title last time. Brad, what's your thoughts on this one? And why make this fight straight away?
Well, yeah, there's a lot to it, right? There's a few things to unpack here. So first of all, these guys both had incredible performances in the semi-finals of the flyweight tournament. You couldn't have picked a better match in for the final in my eyes. There was 4 tough contenders in there, and to see them fight in the final was fantastic. Shanks missed weight, right? So he was not eligible to win the title in the first place. And usually when something like that happens, the promotion are going to say, well, look, you're going to have to fight bantamweight next time, or until such time as, you can sort this out. And I think some of his team was sort of saying that he struggled with the weight before, so maybe bantamweight was a good idea. So there's obviously a lot of uncertainty there over, what would happen, because of course, if Shanks won, the belt would have been vacant, and the division is then in a real mess. Now Chrissy won. Chrissy got the 3rd round finish, which was great to see, because obviously fought for the title twice before and was stopped in the 3rd round on both occasions. Yeah. So there's a nice bit of poetry there, if you like, to see him get the win in the 3rd round. Sam's a great guy, a consummate martial artist, and having seen him fight on Cage Warriors for so long and get so close, it was really nice to see him win the belt. Since the fight, though, there was a bit of controversy. A video came out, which I think was not one of ours. I think it was a film from the corner of Luke Shanks or someone at cage side. And it looked like Chrissy tapped in that first round to the armbar attempt. Now, I didn't see it as it happened. I didn't even mention it, I don't think. I believe Dan Strauss kind of said, like, oh, he's come close with the armbar there. Dan did say to me as soon as the fight was over, I think he tapped there. It was kind of opposite where we were, but I guess Dan maybe saw something I didn't. So then you've got a controversial situation. The crucial thing is this. The last instruction the fighter gets from the referee is fight until I tell you to stop. So there's definitely a shout that if you feel a tap, you should let go, because that's how you're trained to do it in the gym. You don't want to hurt anybody when you're training, when you're in practice. And it's an instinct, right? When you feel the tap, you let go. You don't want to hurt anyone. There's another line of thought, which is this is a prize fight. So you stop fighting when the referee tells you to stop. Now, Dan's a great referee. He is only going to stop a fight on something he sees. If he doesn't see it, there's nothing he can do. So it's just one of those situations. We'd all love to have 10 camera angles and stop the fight every 5 minutes to replay absolutely everything. And there was a great example earlier that night, right? You had the Adam Amarasinghe versus Michele Martignoni fight. and the fight was stopped for what looked like an eye poke. And you could see clear as day an eye poke on the camera angle. And then the truck sent another camera angle through, put it on the big screens, and you could see clear as day that it wasn't. So angles lie, the camera lies. So there was obviously a bit of controversy there. I think a rematch is the right thing to do. I think it is, you know. I think Shanks is going to have a lot of pressure now to make weight, because if he doesn't make weight this time, that's a bad look. Yeah. And you know, you never know. Like Chrissy might be like, "Well, look, I might not take the fight if he doesn't make weight." I doubt that would happen. I'm sure Sam would take the fight anyway, but he'd be well within his rights to say no. So that's the first thing that we've got to get out of the way. You know, we've got to see Shanks make weight. And then look, then they've got 5 more rounds to settle it, right? We'll find out who the better man is. And if Shanks wins, then maybe we see a best out of 3. And no complaints. Like, it was a great fight. I'd watch the guys fight, you know, once a day and twice on Sunday, right?
Yeah, definitely a good matchup. And obviously, Shanks is himself a former champion. Katie, you looking forward to seeing this rematch, and how do you see it going?
Well, yeah, like Brad said, I'd watch it on every Cage Warriors card going forward. I thought it was lovely to see Sam win the belt. You know, we've seen him come close before. I think anybody who's a Cage Warriors fan, like, it would have warmed their heart to see him lift the belt, and I'm glad he had that moment. But is the rematch deserved? Yeah, I think it probably is. It was a strange situation. I was there, and I definitely didn't see it, and I had to even watch a video a couple of times before I saw it. So it's interesting, and the weight thing makes it more interesting as well. And if he does make weight, is it going to take too much out of him? Because I did think he didn't look quite himself in the last fight anyway. I mean, he still performed well, but I don't think it was his best performance. So yeah, I'm really interested to see how this one goes.
Sorry, Katie. I think the thing with Shanks is, like, and there's a couple of guys in Cage Warriors that you could probably say this about, absolutely perfect for a 130-pound division, because he's kind of got like the height and reach of a flyweight, but the stockiness of a bantamweight. And there's guys like maybe someone like Conor Hignett, maybe Gerardo Funny. They all probably fit really nicely into 130-pound. Probably Sam Chrissy as well, actually, because, you know, Sam's a bit taller than a couple of the flyweights. So yeah, I think, you know, maybe if at some point in the future we go, you know, 120, 130, 140 and on like that might be an ideal place. But who knows? Like you say, I think the result of this one will probably be the determining factor in where we see Shanks fight next.
Yeah, and big shout out from me as well to Chrissy, because he's like you both said, he's that guy where it's just sometimes it's nice to see perseverance pay off, isn't it? You know, he's come, got close, failed, got close again, built himself back up, failed again, but you know, he came back for a third shot, he's got it. And you know what? Although I'm a very, very big fan of Luke Shanks, I actually think Sam's going to be getting a decisive win in this one. I think just that win might give him a little bit of confidence that he needs, that championship mentality to really push him to the next level. And as I said, I'm a big Shanks fan, but I think weight is an issue for him. I think Chrissy is actually going to get. I actually think he might get a finish in this one. Shoot me if I'm wrong, but that's one I'm really sort of got a feeling about on this one. So big shout out to both guys. I'm really looking forward to this fight, because both of them are great guys, great competitors, and that's a big fight on this card to have. You know, not even the main fight of the night, but the kind of the co-main. That's a huge sort of co-main event, and I mean, it's really just a testament to the quality of Cage Warriors now that you can put sort of this many title fights of, you know, this quality on a card 2 nights in a row. So yeah, big shout out to that fight, which takes us then down to Matthias Figleck versus Kent Corbin. I think I may have butchered that name, Brad. Have I pronounced that right?
Yeah. Kent Corbin.
What's your take on this one, Brad? A welterweight bout. Obviously, Figleck has been on a bit of a tear recently.
This was another Ian Dean special for me, because I did not expect this one at all. The main reason I didn't expect this one was that Kent has fought as high as light heavyweight, and he came to Cage Warriors as a middleweight, and he did not look small. I know he fought Jamie Richardson, who's also kind of been a welterweight and been in middleweight himself as well. But Kent certainly did not look in any way undersized as a middleweight, and you could maybe argue that Kent might have been next in line. While that division is reordering itself. Obviously, you've got guys like Christian Leroy Duncan coming through as well. Is Matthias going to come back and have another title shot? But I think you could have certainly made an argument, especially during this trilogy era when it's very much about who's available at any given time. I think you could have given Kent a title shot. Coming off that win off Jamie. So for him to make this decision to drop down, which I think is the first time as a pro that he's fought welterweight, I might be wrong there, but certainly
I think you're right.
For the first time in a long time to drop down to welterweight. But it's a situation where the belt is vacant. He's coming off a debut win. If he can stop a huge prospect like Figleck or beat him in impressive fashion, however, then all of a sudden he's in the welterweight title race, right? Because there's no champion there now. So that the Cage Warriors brass are going to be looking at every welterweight fight of the guys who are kind of in around that like close to 10 fights and up sort of experience level, and looking for prospective contenders for next year. So he's rolling the dice here against Figleck, and if he can stop this guy or beat him in impressive fashion, that's huge. That puts him at the top of the pile. But look, Figleck's no joke, right? Neither of them are. They've both been on a tear. I think that with a 6-0 and 6-1 now or thereabouts. They're riding a huge wave of momentum. They've got that star quality about them. And I think both of them realistically in the next 12 months could be looking at Cage Warriors title shots, and beating a solid hand like Kent is going to be huge for Figleck.
Yeah. Katie, do you think the winner of this one may potentially be in that next title spot position?
Well, I do, and I think the other half of that title fight's got to be Reece McKee. So I was just going to ask Brad, do we know when the next Cage Warriors card is? Has that been announced yet?
Nothing's been announced. I have an idea, but I'm not going to tell you. What I would say is maybe like keep an eye on the broadcasts in December, because they usually announce what's coming next.
You did say there's not normally a card in January, so I was thinking it might be February. But Reece has said he's not fighting till April. So
in 10 years
Detective
since I've been there, we've not had a January fight. So look,
February.
If you look at when Cage Warriors have previously done cards, like you can kind of probably figure it out. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Well,
before I get myself in trouble. There's a big UFC card in March. Cage Warriors has traditionally, operated around that. So, I would sort of start looking around that sort of time for stuff to be put in place. But I'd say keep an eye on the broadcast. You'll probably have some good news.
Because I do think this could be a number one contender fight. I think Figleck was who I did wonder whether Reece and Figleck would be fighting for the vacant title on this doubleheader. I understand Reece's reasons for not fighting on every card at the moment, and I think that makes sense. And I get the timeline that he's working to. So, but I still think that he's more than earned that title shot with all of his previous performances. So, for me, it's who is going to face him, and maybe it won't be vacant by the time he's ready to fight. Maybe they will have had a title fight, but Figleck's looks so impressive in his last few fights, and like the story of the Figleck brothers, like I just think is really cool, and the story of the Hardwick brothers is really cool. It's just another great Cage Warriors storyline that runs through all the cards. So it's really hard to pick against him, but seeing Kent against Jamie, I was quite surprised, because if you look at his record, he's had some mixed results. He's had some great wins, but he's had some tough losses as well. And I know how good Jamie is, and to see him do that, he seemed to just be elevated. He's elevated his performance and his, you know, skills to just another level. So this is going to be a really interesting and exciting one as well. And this one does stand out on a card of really good fights as being one to watch. So I'm gonna go with Figleck, but I'm not overly confident.
Yeah.
And I'm glad not to be. I'm glad that I just can't tell.
Yeah, you wouldn't want it any other way, would you? And I tend to agree with you, Katie. I think Figleck, just by the tears on how impressive he's looked, I think he's definitely going to be a slight favourite, but a very tight bout. And I'll move on. I'll move down a couple on the back of that one, Katie, because you mentioned him, a guy you know quite well, Jamie Richardson. He's on this card a little bit further down. He's fighting Leonardo Damiani, another welterweight bout. Obviously, Jamie going back down from his little canter at middleweight. What's your thoughts on Jamie moving back down, and what do you think about this matchup for him?
I think if he can handle the weight cut okay, and it seems like he can, he looks more in line with that weight class. I'm aware that earlier on we talked about people fighting closer to their natural weight class, and then we're telling people to go back down. But he did look small or smaller against the likes of, you've got scary people at middleweight, haven't you? Like Matthias is enormous. And seeing those two together, I thought Jamie did really, really well in that fight right up until he got caught. But there's so much power in that division. I think I'm really excited seeing him back at welter. I thought he looked fantastic last time. I think they must have been drilling the guillotines at BKK for Arnold must have been drilling the guillotines with everyone, because Steve Amable got his first submission win the last Cage Warriors trilogy as well. So they were obviously, getting stuck into them. But I just feel like he is another one who's just always exciting to watch. You see him get announced. Cage Warriors has got a way, or Ian Dean's got a way of making you get really attached to these fighters, and you follow them for years, and you really care about how they do. And he's someone I just always love seeing him on the card, and I'm really excited to see him on this one.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's to be honest, after that fight with Matthias, I was kind of wondering where does he go from there, because obviously losing so clearly to a much bigger man, you do worry. But yeah, I think definitely glad to see him go back down. What about you, Brad? You happy to see him go back down, or just happy to see him fight anyway?
Yeah, look, I think maybe like early on in his career, there were a couple of fights where, he kind of ran out of steam a little bit as the fight wore on. But, even if you look at his more recent welterweight fights, he seems to have addressed that. He had the great fight with Phil Wells, didn't he? A couple of great fights with Phil Wells. Absolute barnstormers. So look, as long as he can do it safely, then absolutely no issue with it. Leonardo, when he had his Cage Warriors debut, he beat Aaron Khalid at a time when Aaron was looking like he might be in a fight or two away from a title shot. Obviously, he went to try his luck in the Contender Series. It didn't work out. So this is a big second opportunity for him. Jamie's obviously the known commodity with Cage Warriors, so to come in and take out another guy like Jamie is obviously going to do wonders for Damiani's stock. And then Jamie obviously is going to be in that same position that we've talked about for a few guys. They don't want to be penciled into that gatekeeper slot. They want to get back in the title hunt. And look, there's great fights for Jamie at welterweight. If he can get a win here, does he fight Figleck next? Does he fight the winner of that one? There's plenty of fun fights for both these guys at welterweight. So, while I certainly wouldn't say either of them are in like a can't lose situation, this is going to be a fight they both really want to win. That's a really stupid cliche, isn't it? Obviously, they're going to want to win. It's a fight, but it's going to do a lot for their place in the division, and it's probably going to dictate the next 12 months or so of their career.
Yeah, definitely. And that takes us, go back up a little bit. You've got another big fight between Tobias Harila versus Jaya Jr. And obviously then the younger brother of Matthias Figleck, Michael Figleck, and he's going to be facing Steve Mcintosh.
Harila, Lewis, how can you not
be
excited? How can you not
Yeah,
be
go.
excited? Like, oh my God, even the walkout, that guy is so scary. But just, I cannot wait to see. I think that loss will have annoyed him because I think he'll be annoyed he didn't adapt, and I think that will be something that he'll find quite easy to fix once he's back in the gym. And I just feel sorry for his opponent having to be in there with him when he's got a point to prove. This could, I know I've said it a few times now, but this could be the performance of this night. I think it's going to be amazing, and the walkout's going to be amazing, and just don't look away.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me. Thank you for stopping me there, guys. I appreciate the.
Yeah, look, Harilla's one of those guys who gets it. He gets the game. He understands that you have to entertain as well as win. And I think maybe that's what he got caught up doing against William Gomis in his last fight. He wanted to just walk towards the guy and smash him in the face. And, Gomis was able to avoid those big shots and get his own off. And I was really impressed by the way Tobias kind of responded after the fight. And he said, look, I'm going to go learn from this lesson. I'm going to come back and I'm going to beat everyone in the division. And based on previous performances, you wouldn't argue with him. I think there were a lot of fighters in this featherweight division who on any given day could make the claim that they are the best fighter in that division. Obviously, we've got two great champions in Jordan and Paul. We've got Morgan Charrier right behind them, facing the pack. Both of those guys, Morgan's lost to both those guys in really, really close fights. And, maybe on a different day of the week, maybe Charrier gets his hand raised in one of those fights. And then if you look behind that, you've got guys like James Hendon, you've got guys like Tobias Harilla, and both those guys will back themselves to beat either of the Cage Warriors champions, I think. And, they you might not want to argue with either of them. I think this is going to be a really, really good fight. Again, he's fighting an unknown commodity who's got a lot of experience fighting all around the world. It's going to be another tough test for him. But look, we all like that kind of showmanship aspect as well. We all like the violence in the cage, and that's what Tobias Harilla brings. And again, I think for the Saturday card, this is going to be one of the sleeper fights of the night.
Yeah, definitely.
Tobias. Can I just say, Steve Amos was still in that title race too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Steve's what, 3 in a row now?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he can't be. The thing with Steve is like, if there weren't 2 champions and Charrier, he'd be much closer to a title fight, because that situation with those 3 guys, it was probably going to have to work itself out. Now, maybe one or more of them get signed to the UFC. Steve's right in there. I mean, I would love to see Harilla versus Steve as #1 contender fight. I think you cannot deny the winner of that is championship caliber.
Yeah, Steve is one of those guys in Cage Warriors, isn't he? He's just so well known. Has there been like a Cage Warriors trilogy that Steve wasn't on, or any card that Steve wasn't on? He's just
he missed one when his elbow was still healing from that knockout. So I think he missed the one in March, and but
that's what makes Steve so dangerous, though. He's got so much experience.
Yeah.
He's been fighting as a professional for I think 10 years now as a professional.
Yeah.
Like you can't count that out, because there's going to be very little he's not seen and very little he's not come up against. And like I say, yeah, exactly right. He's not to be denied. And I think, look, if a couple of guys go off to the UFC and Steve wins his next one and puts his hand up, how can you deny that?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's hard not to be a Steve Amiable fan, isn't it? I think he's such a humble guy as well outside of the octagon.
He's great to watch, even if you've never seen him outside the cage. He's one of those guys when the cage door shuts. Name a boring Steve Amiable fight. There isn't one, right? There just isn't. So guys like that are always going to have a place on the card. And the same with a guy like Harilla. That he didn't win last time, but it was super entertaining. We were all sat there at the commentary desk on the edge of our seats, like, what's going to happen next? That's what you want, right? At the end of the day, whether you're media or you're just a fight fan, you want to see entertaining fights at the end of the day, and that's what guys like that bring. I am officially starting the campaign right here and now for Steve Aimable versus Tobias Harila somewhere down the line. If Ian Dean's watching
Take
this,
my money.
that's what I want for Christmas.
Yeah, take all our money, I think. And Katie, well done for giving your boy a shout out there.
I can't let it slide ever.
and also Tobias Harila, please forgive me for skipping your fight.
He's not someone you want to upset,
Sure,
Lewis.
to remind me.
I think you should check under your bed tonight for Tobias Harila. He might be there.
Yeah, definitely. But then obviously we've got Michael Figleck and Steve Mcintosh. Katie, what's your thoughts on this one?
Well, I think it's going to be such a great storyline, isn't it, to see both Figlecks fight for the belt on the same night at some point.
Can you imagine?
I can't imagine it not happening, to be honest. The way they're both looking and the way they handle the pressure of being on the same card as each other as well. Yeah, it's going to be a great fight. Stevie Mcintosh has had some really tough cage warriors fights, hasn't he, for his first few? It's going to be another really good one. Don't look away. I'm not going to pick on this one because all my Scottish contingent probably stone me.
Brad, has it happened before to have two brothers as champions at roughly the same time?
Oh man, I don't know about champions at the same time.
That got to be a first if it happened, though, right?
I think if it would certainly be the first time they'd fought for titles on the same card, I would imagine. I've had this conversation with my friend Ricky Wright before. Actually, we were talking about various brothers in MMA. So obviously, you put the Hua brothers, the Overeem brothers, the Millers. There's obviously a few more. I think in Cage Warriors, no, I don't think we have. And I think from if you're looking at it from a PR and marketing point of view, that's going to get headlines, right? You're going to get interest from obviously the MMA media, but you probably get some interest from kind of like national media as well for that, because that's just such a great story, right? Two brothers fighting for world titles on the same night. Look, Cage Warriors isn't there picking favorites or anything, but it would be a promoter's dream to have that. And I think if both guys stay winning, why wouldn't you, right? They're obviously training together. They're a couple of pounds in weight between them, so they're training together constantly anyway. They've been a big part of each other's camps throughout their Cage Warriors 10 years over the last 18 months. So why not? If they can both stay healthy, both stay winning. But look, Mcintosh is no joke, man. He's like Kate said, he's had some tough fights, and this is gonna be another one. It's going to be a war. These guys are going to bite down on the gum shields, let rip, and it's going to be a case of last man standing, I think.
Yeah, another great fight and on an absolutely packed card. So really looking forward to that. Two brothers again on the same card, pretty unique, and we can't wait to see that one. That takes us to Paul Mcbain versus Common Day. Two really experienced guys in that division. You've got Common Day, who just seems to have been around for it so long. He's going to be against Paul Mcbain, who's another Scottish guy, another really talented striker. What do you think of this one, Brad?
I'm a big fan of Common Day, and I'm a big fan of Paul Mcbain. He's a true journeyman in the most respectful sense of the term, in that he goes anywhere and fights anyone, and he gives everyone a tough fight. He's not getting smashed out there in the first round. He's making you work for those wins. So even the guys who beat him, unless you're looking at like the likes of Mason and Jack, most guys who have beat him, it's taken them 3 rounds, and they've had to really work for it. And he's upset the apple cart a couple of times, and he's done it at a high level on Cage Warriors too. He's really tough, really awkward, and Paul McBain's one of those guys who's just going to come out and put it on you. Like, he will happily stand in front of any man. I thought he was looking really good in his last fight as well. Obviously had a bit of a break. So great to see him competing regularly. And, again, he's one of those guys who's going to be chasing the pack in that 145-pound division. If he can be the guy that goes out and smashes Common Day, which a lot of other guys have struggled to do, Well, all of a sudden, he's a few rungs up the ladder, and you're talking about him being, maybe 2 or 3 fights away from the title. So a great opportunity against a tough opponent. And I know that Corbin would have nothing more than to come in and ruin someone else's night like he's done a few times before.
Yeah. Brad, we've got, speaking of our Scottish contingent, we've got Peter Knox who's asking, do you think there's a chance Cage Warriors come to Scotland next year? I know it seems to be a question we've had for a number of years now, but do you think we are any closer to that one of those cards ever happening?
No.
No, simple answer.
I don't know. Is the honest answer? I don't know. Look, I think you need obviously young talent to fill out the undercards, and you need a big name or someone who's on a good streak. Look, it's live entertainment business, right? So you've got to be able to attract a crowd. So I think if some of the Scottish guys start putting wins together, if Mcintosh and Mcbain can get big wins here tonight at Double Trouble, and then early next year, then they can quite rightly turn around and say, well, look, you need to take Cage Warriors back up to Scotland. I don't know what the plans are. That is not my department whatsoever. But I think Cage Warriors will always go where it's got support, and it will always go where it's got that talent base. You look at the situation with Wales over the past few years, with the likes of Jack Shaw, Mason Jones, Jack Marshman, etc. Before when there was that, just a huge wave of Welsh MMA guys coming up. Cage Warriors spent a lot of time in Wales. Same with Ireland. Same with London. Same with Liverpool. The Scandinavian shows, we had loads of Scandinavian guys on there. I know Cage Warriors signed a lot of French guys and Scandinavian guys over the past couple of years as well. So wouldn't be hugely surprised. If you look at Graham Boylan's tweet the other week, he said it's going to be one of the busiest years. There's going to be a new country on the on the list of countries that Cage Warriors visited. I don't know, but if I was a betting man, I would bet on France, right? You've got to assume that the Cage Warriors is going to go there at some point. So it's all down to those factors, really. If I'm promoting an MMA show, I go where I've got the talent. I go where I can put bumps on seats. So, like we say, if these Scottish guys can get some wins behind them, who knows?
Yeah. We've got Aidan Stephen as well, and Scott Malone, and there's definitely a few of them. And if Luke Shanks was to win the belt, I know he's not Scottish, but he trains at higher level. So he, that would be a title fight that you could have on that card. And Sean Clancy is someone who I'm sure will be on a Cage Warriors card very soon. There's definitely a ton of talent coming through there. There's more than enough to put on a card. When I asked Graham about it, he said there'd been a not so successful one in Scotland before, and that made them wary about going back. But I wonder now, with the amount of talent that's there, might be time to take another chance.
Maybe.
My 2 pence worth.
Hope that answers your question, Peter Knox. I know we'll probably hear it again next podcast, so whoever's on, listen to what Brad said and just say the same thing.
what I will say about the last Glasgow show was that there was a chippy 2 doors down from the venue that was absolutely fantastic. So I don't know if the Kelvin Hall's still open, but if it is, I would be very up for it in terms of the takeaway food that is available close to the venue.
Always a good reason to go back with food.
That's why I'm not in charge of booking Cage Warriors events. The first thing I do whenever Cage Warriors goes to a new city is get on the old Google Maps and find the best restaurant. So
no bad shout.
That's not how an MMA promotion should be run, but
exactly. That takes us down. Then we've got Taniel Palagricio. I hope I've said that name right, and he's going to be fighting Aidan James. Aidan, another guy coming out of Wales. He fights from the Chris Reese Academy, or now Drag, I believe it's called. A big first fight in the promotion for him. Stoppage win, I think first or second round. I can't remember which, but he looked really good.
Apart from his toe looked awful, didn't it?
It did, yeah. But Aidan's a tough guy. Obviously he was fighting over in Brave, been about a little bit, and now come back to Cage Warriors. I think it's a really good move for him to be fighting kind of in this region. Really looking forward to seeing what he's got, because I know he trains about a couple of different gyms in Wales. He does a little bit of show MMA, and he puts in a lot of effort. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do on this card. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on this particular matchup, Katie.
I don't know much about his opponent, but I always love watching Aidan James fight. He's just loved that style, and he's got a great personality as well, hasn't he? He's just wicked to watch. Another great addition.
Yeah,
absolutely. You can tell he's got that kind of star quality about him. Palagricio, we have seen once on Cage Warriors before. He went to a decision with Aiton de Pap, I believe, in Belgium. But obviously, he's been around since. He's had a few more fights in, and he's one of those guys who's got that opportunity to kind of come in and take out the known quantity. So yeah, be very interesting to see how both these guys have developed since we last saw them.
Yeah, and that takes us then to we've got the next fight, and I apologize in advance if I can't pronounce these names right. My English or whatever language I'm speaking is terrible, but it's Maximilian Valot versus Lona Kavanagh.
That's so Lonnie trains the GB Top Team with Brad. Yeah. I've been watching him since he was 16 in his first amateur fight. This kid will be Cage Warriors flyweight champion. That is my prediction. He is awesome to watch. He's honestly, he's just just watch. Just watch his fight.
The name there, Kate? Is it?
Yeah, you got it right. But everyone calls him Lonnie.
Lonnie, yeah, brilliant. So that's the next one down on that, and then that is the first fight in this card will be Aaron Abbey, another Welsh guy from North Wales, and he's gonna be fighting Sami Fadine, another pretty known quantity in the Cage Warriors roster. Brad, isn't he, Samia?
Yeah, absolutely. Former flyweight champ, right? So high level guy. I don't know if this is in the right order, to be honest.
No.
I mean, it could be that one of the guys coaches is coaching again later on, so they've asked for it to be on first. I don't know. I would assume it would be higher up in the prelims, but I don't know. But either way, if it's not, it's an excuse to get there early, right? Aaron is a fantastic fighter. His story's been well documented. It's been talked about all over the place. He is a massive inspiration to anyone. He's the guy that when you don't want to go to the gym or you don't want to go for that run or you think life's getting you down, you see what he's been able to overcome and you give yourself a big kick up the arse, right? What a phenomenal human being and an inspirational man. And a great fighter. Let's not just talk about the backstory that he's got. Let's talk about the fact that the guy can fight. He's been in there with some really, really good guys on the European and UK circuit. And going up against the former champion in Samir Fadine, it's go hard or go home, right? He debuted in the flyweight tournament, lost to Sam Chrissy, who's the current champion. He's now facing a former champion. He's not taking any easy fights. He's not interested in easy fights. Samir again is, in a position where, he got decimated by Luke Shanks. So there's no two ways about it. It was one of the most lopsided scorecards in Cage Warriors title fight history. So he needs a huge win here to get back on the horse and prove that was a one-off against Luke Shanks. If I'm Samir, I'm probably hoping that Shanks doesn't win that fight because it's maybe not going to be the best prospect for him to be looking at for his second Cage Warriors title opportunity. But he must have known coming out of that there are holes in the game and improvements to make. So it can be very interesting to see how both these guys coming off kind of decisive losses on Cage Warriors approach this one. And if it does open the card, I'm all for it. It should be a great start to the Saturday night.
Yeah, to be honest, like you said, it might not be in that order, but either way, you look at that card from fight one to bottom to top. Every fight is absolutely brilliant. Everyone is really evenly matched, and it's one of those cards you like Katie said, you really do actually need that couple of minutes to get your stuff done because you don't want to miss a single one of them. And as I said, a testament to the talent on the Cage Warriors roster and to the matchmaking of Ian Dean as well, I think. So yeah, that is Cage Warriors 132. Obviously that's the second of the double trouble card, I think we call it. Who names these, Brad?
Not me, unfortunately. I've had various names for the trilogy series that were rejected and turned down, but you know, I'm not the marketing guy, so there's only so much I can do. And to be honest, all the names I suggested were ridiculous, so probably for the best. But look, Double Trouble, right? I mean, what more do you want? Double Trouble. It's a nice way to go from the trilogies back to what I imagine will be like a more normal schedule. Last year, I was pretty upset when the trilogy series finished because they're so hard to do, but at the same time they're so awesome. And I was like, oh man, it's gonna be really weird going back to just doing one show in December. And then when I found out it was a double show, I was like, oh, it's nicely kind of weaning us off. It's like the methadone of Cage Warriors.
Maybe I don't think we could have put that better. Watch Double Trouble.
This is why they don't let me name stuff, right? This is why.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Keep him away from the marketing.
There we go. And on that note, guys, I don't think there's a better way to end this show. Brad, big thank you for joining us, buddy. We really appreciate your time, and obviously we'll keep an eye out for you on the shows next week. And Katie, any last words before we let you go?
No, just I'm super excited for both cards. From top to bottom, they're just stacked, as we've become accustomed to with Cage Warriors cards. So yeah, don't look away. Plan your wee breaks sensibly, and don't miss anything.
And yeah, guys, for all you hardy Cage Warriors fans who have stuck with us for this hour and 20 minutes, really appreciate your time. Please smash a like, give us a comment, give us a share, and yeah, we'll see you on the next show. Thank you very much, everyone.
See ya.
See you guys.